Hello, football family. Welcome in to Huddle It Up Films. It's the bye week special. We have special guests filtering in and out all night. Really excited. So much to talk about. Never a dull moment in Ravens land. And of course, with me this week again, Miss Ashley Priyanka. Ashley, first off, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How are things down in Florida? A little bit warmer than my 40-degree walk by the water with the wind whipping through with the two dogs today, I imagine.
Oh, I'm cold. It got down to like 40 last night. I had two blankets over my comforter. I'm freezing right now even. My dad doesn't believe in the heat since we are in Florida, so I'm cold. But I'm glad that we have a stress-free week. We can just enjoy other teams' football. We don't have to worry about the Ravens, especially after last week. I'm just excited to relax this week.
It's true. Stress free Sunday. We'll be watching one game in particular, the team in the black and yellow, facing the Jameis Winston Renaissance over there. Also, thank you, Heather, very much for checking in so early with us. I hope you stick with us. You're going to love the guests that are coming up tonight. Really appreciate you commenting early. Comment early and often tonight, by the way, guys. A lot of talking points and a lot to talk about to where we want to hear from you. So we're going to bring in our first two guests. First off, the man, the myth, the legend, personal friend of mine, somebody actually that supported me from the very beginning on his show a lot, collaborating. He has the type of brain that I don't. So I love collaborating with this man because he thinks of things that I don't think about. And I like to think I help him out a little bit. But here he is joining the program, Mr. Film Study himself, Ken McCusick. Ken, how are you doing, buddy?
Life's good. Life's good, Jason. How's it going? Ashley, how you doing?
Great.
So, Ken, we have another guest of ours. Now, the ironic part about this, Ashley, as a Braves fan, us three are Orioles fans, and we actually got to attend a game together, the three of us. So here he is, friend of the program, the Pat McCary of Huddle It Up Films, willing to fill in whatever. Pat McCary plus, I would say. He performs a little bit better at time. He is very few, not very many penalties for you, Alec. Alec Polianis.
Oh, thanks, man. I try not to go downfield until it's my time.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, that's right. And you don't hold a lot. You don't hold.
Yeah, I try not to.
So, fellas, look, the big topic of today is something that Ken wanted to talk about. So, Ken, I'm going to kick it to you first. This Deontay Johnson situation, just a real quick recap. Ravens announced today that he would be suspended for the New York Giants game and contract conduct detrimental to the team. But they also stated the reason, Ken, which was that when they asked him to go in last week against the Philadelphia Eagles, he declined to enter the game and play wide receiver. Ken, kick us off, brother.
Very difficult to understand the mindset, honestly. Obviously, he came to Baltimore. He's earning all his money from the Panthers, gets a free opportunity basically to play with the Ravens for a ring. He's also, obviously playing for a contract as well. But Deontay Johnson has earned a lot of money in this league already, a lot of it this year, in fact. And he apparently felt a little bit dissed that the Ravens didn't have him in there to start with more often. They've been playing Wallace and Aguilar over him the last few weeks. Reports are that after the Cincinnati game, this is from Kyle Barber and I believe also from Jeff Zrebeck, that he was very down in the dumps after a win at home, huge divisional win, clinch a tiebreaker against the Bengals, and was very unhappy about it because he hadn't played very much. And obviously 39 snaps or thereabouts, 5 targets for 6 yards. Didn't play much and didn't play well when he was in there, and he's now going to miss that Giants game.
Alec, what strikes me is, obviously the Deontay Johnson mindset thinking. I know that it's hard to put ourselves in those shoes, in the shoes of a professional athlete. The competitor in you would think he would come in, but 5 games. Ken mentioned it. He's played 5 games and had that few of snaps, that few of action. Would you have liked to seen the Ravens? Forget about Deontay for a second. Would you have liked to seen Deontay be incorporated a little bit more gradually, a little more quicker in some of these games while he's been here?
I guess with the dirty information of what's going on now, yes. But at the same time, I think it's been tricky to try to figure out how to get him in the game, considering how many heavies we've had. If you're frequently only having 2 wide receivers on the field, you're really only just spelling Zay and Bateman. So it's just not been that many opportunities to come in. I think he offers more than Tylen and Nelly potentially, but he had to prove it. He had to learn the system, had to get rapport, and I don't know. Like, if just taking what's happening now and this kind of childish behavior, I just like don't trust that he was the best option all along. And that's kind of, it's unfortunate. It's just like not, it's not the kind of player that will ever vibe with the Ravens. And I'm just worried that the experiment's basically already over. I don't know how he recovers from this.
Stick a probability on that for me. I'm sorry, Jason.
Yeah,
Stick
go
a
ahead.
Probability on that for me. What percentage chance has he already played his last snap as a Raven?
I put it right at 50, honestly.
Okay, I was going to say 60. So we're in lockstep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, want to get you involved here. I think that this situation is unfortunate. I really do, because we basically got Deontay Johnson for free. So maybe the team's looking at it as like, well, if we get something out of him, fine. If we don't, we really didn't give up much, handful of draft slots late in the draft. But I feel like that there's obviously Deontay is a talented player who could help this team and not just be an insurance policy. Do you think that I'm off in that? Like to me, this is a bigger deal than just that, hey, we took a swing and we swung and miss.
I just wish, I mean, obviously none of us know all of the details. We don't know Deontay personally, so I'm just going to speak for what it kind of appears to be. Is like, I feel like it was kind of obvious that he was more so introduced as insurance, especially now with questions up in the air about Bateman. I just don't understand the mindset of like, oh, I'm not going to come into play for somebody who's hurt. I want to be more involved. Like I don't feel like he gave it fair time, because you mentioned like you need to learn this offense. And the few times that he's been out there, he doesn't have a lot of chemistry with Lamar. He doesn't seem to be integrated into the offense the way that he wants to be. And I feel like you kind of have to earn that, especially in a Harbaugh run team. And I don't see a problem with that. I've had my own grievances with John Harbaugh, but I don't necessarily see that being one of them. And it's just really unfortunate to see how things panned out, because as a professional athlete, you mentioned it's hard to put ourselves in those shoes, but you have the greatest job in the world. So all they were asking is just a little bit of patience, or to just see where you fit in on this team, because he was a last minute kind of addition to the offense. And I feel like for the first time in a long time, a wide receiver wasn't necessarily like the number one thing that we wanted to see on the team, because we've seen what we needed to see out of Zay, out of Bateman, out of the guys we have out there. So it's just really unfortunate to see his attitude about all of this come out, and for like it to make league-wise news, I guess.
It is disappointing. Ken, I want to set you up with this that I found interesting. I guess this is Instagram. Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, but Deontay Johnson, in case you don't like me, puts that out. Liked by Zay Flowers, which I found pretty disappointing that Zay Flowers would entertain this, Ken.
I was trying to think of who are the leaders on the Ravens who would give the proper arm around the shoulder to Deontay Johnson, if he'd even be at all receptive to it at this point. And there just aren't a lot on this current Ravens team, and in particular on the offense. I'm not sure there's a single player on the offensive line. Maybe Ronnie Stanley, maybe, but it's just he's not that kind of a interfering sort, I'll call it. If I was looking at the defense, I think they have Humphrey and Van Noy are both guys who maybe could do it. If you look back in history, Ray Lewis would be all over it. Trevor Price would be all over it. Canty would be all over it. You'd have lots of players who you could point to. There are not a ton of players on this team. It's interesting that one of the players who's probably mature enough to at least tell him his own story would be Nelson Aguilar. And he's the guy who would lose snaps to potentially, if that were going on. So, there's no Anquan Bolden, there's no Steve Smith on this team, and Lamar Jackson does not strike me as the kind of guy who's going to be able to make a forceful argument that Deontay's really going to buy into. He's more going to be trying to be his friend. Deontay needs a big brother right now. Somebody's actually going to give him some tough love right now for what's happened.
Actually, wanted to kick it to you on this. Lamar, obviously, the reports are he was, talking to Deontay Johnson. What do you think those conversations were like? If you had to guess, is it more, Ken said, buddy, trying to, hey man, come on, we need you, or do you think that, during the, behind closed doors that Lamar's going to get tough with him and say, hey man, be a professional. I need you out there. You're in a contract year. Big brother, little brother. Boss, like how do you feel like Lamar may interact with Deontay?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw both him and John Harbaugh did speak to him in the locker room. And initially, what I had said is I wouldn't have even wasted my breath on that type of attitude and refusing to come out, especially when the entire team is ready. And for the team to even go on and lose, I really wouldn't have wasted my breath trying to speak to him. But I do know that you have to be bigger than that, especially in a leadership role that Lamar and Harbaugh are in. I can see both of them kind of taking more of a lenient, friendly approach to him. But I agree. I think there needs to be somebody who steps in and kind of gives him a reality check. Like I had mentioned earlier, you have the best job in the world and you can contribute in any way that is meaningful to the team, even if it's just a few snaps or you're coming in for an injured player. Because if you go down the road and you win the Super Bowl, you have incorporated just as much as everyone else to have won that accolade. So I just think that he needs to step out of himself, take this time in his suspension to really think about what he wants and how he wants to be perceived too, because this is kind of a stain on his career at this point that he's brought on himself.
Alec, pick it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I think we talked privately about how the Ravens are probably trying to maintain his value as best they can because there's a comp pick to gain on the other side of this, while also like reprimanding him for the conduct and trying to get him in line. I imagine it wasn't the easiest idea to just suspend him one game. I think they were working through that immediately after the game and even through the press conference on Monday. And all the press conferences they had, I guess they waited until after all those. Could have been strategic to not have them ask any more questions about it, but it still is a big decision to make. And I agree with Ken. I just feel like there's not that many leaders on this team. In fact, I think there's just this is the most public sign of all the locker room trouble I think they've been having this year. The defense has been in shambles, obviously, with the Eddie Jackson situation and cut, and then Marcus Williams being a healthy scratch when they also say he's your third safety. Doesn't really make much sense what's going on there. So, yeah, I think there's just a lot of turmoil and not many, real leaders on the team. I don't think Harbaugh's necessarily lost the locker room. I just think that there's these little nodes of turmoil, so to speak.
So I want to pick this up. I want to go to Heather and Don Royal. Appreciate you guys. John Parsons also checking in, making the point that he stayed with Nelly eventually. Initially, that was that was basically Deontay Johnson's plan when he got here. Heather saying, "I believe the coaching staff is soft. We need more people holding each other accountable. I almost think that Harbaugh may be losing the locker room." And Don adding on to that thought, Harbaugh is the common denominator. Now, what I would like to say about this situation is that if you're a coach, if you are a Hall of Fame coach, you want to get the best out of every player. Now, is Deontay Johnson, has he been a problem everywhere he's been? Yes, he was a problem in Pittsburgh. Yes, he was a problem in Carolina, giving up on blocks, giving up on plays. It's a challenge. Like if I was the coach, I would say, hey, if anybody can get the best out of them, it's going to be me. You need clear communication. This is the plan. This is why we traded for you. Are you in or are you not in? And to try to coach him differently than you would different players. Like you don't want to coddle anybody. You're not going to cave your own system and create the culture. But, Ashley, I would love to just be able to say, look at my head coach, John Harbaugh, getting the best out of this problem child because he is talented. I mean, he's someone made the point where he's more talented than Aguilar. He runs different routes than Wallace. That's all true. Deontay Johnson, former 1,000-yard receiver. So I would love it would be a real big notch under Harbaugh's belt if he could get Deontay Johnson to contribute and help us win games down the stretch.
Yeah, it's difficult because I understand and I agree partially with what Heather's saying. I don't think that I would phrase it as Harbaugh maybe losing the locker room. I just think his approach has been very friendly toward his players, and they do love him. But that may not be enough, especially when it comes to players like Deontay. But it's also just hard to use him as an example because he has been a problem everywhere he's been. And I don't think that he makes that much of a difference to our offense where we need to think of something else to approach him as. Like, it's hard because we're in a position where he is now part of the team, but I also don't want to go out of my way to help somebody who clearly has a mental block themselves, and that's just something they're going to have to get over themselves because it's a recurring problem. It's not that this has spawned on the Ravens and it's the way our offense is and the way our team is ran. I don't think that we need to look at the offense as a whole because of Deontay Johnson. I think he is going to be this way. He could be on the Chiefs and he would still be this way. So I just don't. There's a lot of nuance when you approach the situation with Deontay Johnson.
It certainly is. And Alec, look at this offense that he walked into. I mean, first,
Right.
third, first, second, first. You go even to, a second slide here. Points per game, third, red zone, first. I mean, this isn't some bum offense that he's coming into. You would think as a human being, you're going to have to get integrated. I had a separate slide here, which I forgot to incorporate with the yards per target of every target that Lamar has. I mean, these guys are all performing really, really well. Ken, do you have something to say?
I mean, let's talk yards per target for a moment. I really want to push back on the notion that he deserves to play over either of Wallace or Aguilar for starters. Aguilar last year in this offense was outstanding. And look at his yards per target is up right around 9. If you look at his yards per target this year, even though he's having an off year, 7.5. What's Deontay Johnson for the year? Is it 6 point something? 6.1 thereabouts. Career, He's around 6.7. He's played with some lousy quarterbacks. He hasn't really played that well. The only time he's ever racked up stats, it's been on a volume basis by being with bad quarterbacks in bad situations. And he got 1,100 yards once with Pittsburgh in the waning days of Ben. And he did it with 170 targets, I believe, on the year, 169 maybe on the year. I mean, you better get 1,100 yards if you get 169 targets. That's all I got to say. That's that's what's less than 7 yards a target. So, he hasn't really ever been a great receiver, and people have locked into traits components about what's good about him over simple production metrics, which the Jackson Ravens have been all about high success rates for their running backs. It's about how Lamar makes everybody else better on the field. And yeah, maybe he would make Deontay better, but Deontay does have to beat out some people who have certifiably outplayed him this year or for his career, for that matter, in Aguilar and Wallace.
So I'm going to give you the last word on this before we move on to another topic, but definitely something that we had to discuss. You put the 50-50 chance that he plays again. Build off of that, or give us the final word on Deontay.
I mean, it's just super frustrating to see insurance policy not pay out. That could be a broader comment on the insurance agencies in general, but we're just like dealing with a really tricky situation with him. And I don't know. I agree with you, Ken. I think I thought Tylan Wallace has looked good all year. Nelson had a great year last year and has contributed this year as well. It's not like just a gimme for him to get in there and get snaps and get targets. The thing says it all right now. 1-3, 1-2, 1. Like, the offense was fine without him. It's continued to be okay. I think he could add something to it, but with the attitude he has right now, I doubt it. So it's just, I don't know. I don't even really know what he could do at this point to get back in the trust of Harbaugh. I feel like this is a doghouse that will be very difficult to overcome.
It could be. And go ahead. Do you have something to say?
Fair to drop that on Harbaugh? I mean, look, I'll say, yeah, Harbaugh has had other people in the doghouse, and they've been people who belong there. And Ashley, just to your point,
I don't mean it in like Harbaugh
a negative way.
No, I just think like given like things that it seems like get you in Harbaugh's doghouse, I think this is it's pretty bad. Right?
You couldn't do much worse. But Bryant McKinney, found his way out of the doghouse and onto the 2012 postseason roster. at left tackle. There have been escapees from the kennel. So I think it could be possible for Johnson to turn it around just because the Ravens' need is so great. And that's exactly how McKinney got out in 2012. They had to make the three-way switcheroo for the playoffs on the offensive line to make the thing work.
Yeah, Alec was basically saying it's a tough ask, Ken. Tough ask for Harbaugh. It's not something that you want to just pour down the blame. So Ashley, let's look at this current Ravens playoff picture when it comes to the division against the Steelers. Now, of course, the tiebreakers go, your head to head, then your division record and your common opponents. Ken's going to lead us more into that. But you look at the remaining schedule, definitely favors the Ravens. Steelers, tough games. They already lost against the Browns. We just saw how talented that Eagles team is. And, of course, they play the Chiefs. And who knows with this Bengals team, just crazy. Pittsburgh put up 40-something points on them. It was nuts. How do you feel? Like, Ravens Nation is down after this loss, and rightfully so. How optimistic are you that the Ravens could surpass the Steelers and get that home playoff game, which would be very important to the team?
Yeah, I think there's a very high likelihood that happens, especially because this Steelers, their tail end of the season is so difficult. Their schedule was just piled on with all of their AFC North rivals toward the end of the season, the Chiefs and the Eagles, who we just lost to. That's going to be very difficult for this team. And the Steelers in the past, I've watched this before. I've seen this happen before with the Steelers. As they start off hot, everyone is talking about how they're a contender, but then they somehow crumble. They somehow fall apart toward the end of the season. And there's nothing that different about this team that strikes me as they're going to make it all the way. I think the Ravens, as long as we focus on our team and we can win out these games, I'm very confident in the Ravens.
Go ahead, fellas. Who wants to jump in there?
I can. I mean, I think the Ravens still have a great opportunity to win the division. You just look at the schedule. I think they'll lose to the Eagles. I think I knew going into that game against the Eagles it was going to be a tough ask. And I was actually happy to see the damage limited almost. And I think I was happy to see the defense compete. And then we can figure out the rest with the offense. I truly believe that in a second round with them, obviously that'd be a Super Bowl, which would be amazing. But I think we could get them on the second try. But yeah, they have the Chiefs they have to play, who figure out ways to win. The Bengals may or may not be fighting for their life at that point. Probably not. And I actually kind of trust the Browns to neutralize things a little bit this week. The Browns have been feisty, and they beat them last time, and I think they could do it again.
Ken, we may have to win this thing outright as far as beating the Steelers and hoping that they lose a division game to either the Browns or the Bengals to have that better division record, because the tiebreakers after that do not look good. You have a chart. Let me see if I can add it to the stage here. It's a little small, so you can't see it. But if you want to talk us through why the Ravens really need a little bit of help at this point to win the division.
Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, they're 2 down in the loss column, so they need some help in that. But if you look at the order of tiebreakers up here in the division, and this is color-coded, against the Steelers, head-to-head is first. The Ravens can tie that, but they cannot win it. That's what an orange means. So they need to win that game against the Steelers in order to have any chance to come back and win the division. Basically, period. They could win only that game, and the Steelers could lose all 5 of their games, and they would win the division at 9-8. So even that is possible, but they really have to win that head-to-head game against the Steelers. The only tiebreaker that the Ravens can win, the one that's still up in the air, is division games. And in order for them to win it, the Ravens need to both win the head-to-head matchup for it even to go to division games, and then also have the Steelers lose one more game in division. And they need to win that, not just tie it, because they lose on lower tiebreakers. And if you look at this, they can only tie is the best they can do on common games, and they've already lost on conference games if we get to that tiebreaker. So that's an important consideration. Some people say, well, wait a minute, they could end up with a better conference record still than the Steelers. Yeah, they can, but only if other conditions that already win them the division by division games occur. So anyway, they've lost that conference tiebreaker if it comes to that. Against the Bengals, they've got the head-to-head tiebreakers. In division, it's only the Steelers that are really a concern. And they need to either win one and have the Steelers lose one of the 2 remaining division games, or they need to win out and have win out and have the Steelers lose 3 games. It would take, because that would be outrighting them. So that would be like losing the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Ravens would also do it to catch up. It's a mighty tall hill, probably less than a 1 in 3 chance. FTN has it at about 34%.
Love it. So you can follow Ken on Twitter at Film Study Ravens to see this close up. I know a lot of people watch on their phones. It might be kind of hard to see with the tiebreaker scenario, but just to go back and to simplify it, look, the Ravens' best path to win this division is to not only, of course, beat the Steelers, but to have that Steelers get that 3rd conference loss. So if the Steelers finish with a worse conference record than the Ravens, you see the Steelers are at 2-1 right now. The Ravens are at 2-2. They lost, of course, to the Steelers and the Browns. Steelers are going to have to return that favor. They're going to have to either lose to the Browns again or lose to the Bengals. Is the clearest path. And as Ken's saying, odds are showing it at about 1 in 3. So, I mean, this Steelers team is just so hard to figure out, Alec. I feel like when they play the Chiefs, buddy, like the team that deserves to win the least is going to be the winner of that game, just considering how their seasons have gone. I feel like maybe it's an optimist in me, but I feel like we're a little bit better shot than the 33% that the mathematics say. I feel like the Ravens or the Steelers could easily lose to the Browns this week or to the Bengals in week 17, as long as that team is still together.
Sure. I honestly, I almost barely care if they win the division or not at this point. I want them to beat the Steelers. I want them to beat the Steelers. And if the Steelers do enough, congratulations. If they beat the Eagles and the Chiefs, and they win 2 of these, or one of the, I guess it'd be win those 2 games and win one of the Browns or Bengals, like, good on them. Congrats. Like, I tip my cap. I guess you'd earn the division. But I don't see that happening. So I think the only thing I care about is beat the Steelers. I really just care about the Ravens' path at this point, and the Steelers they'll play themselves out.
Actually, I was impressed with Lamar when he was asked. It was probably one of the most encouraging press conference I've seen. He's always genuine, down to earth. A lot of times he doesn't say much, but when asked about the Steelers, he said, we can't worry about the Steelers. We got to worry about ourselves. And that's exactly the mindset you want to have protruding throughout that locker room, coming from your leader, Lamar, being like, none of it matters. None of what the Steelers do matters if we don't get our own stuff together.
Right.
Yeah, that's an encouraging mindset, and I wish some of that would maybe brush off onto Deontay Johnson and maybe some of the other players who are in that same boat as well, because you really can't. Like, I know that players probably are up to date and they do look at the scores and they do watch some of the primetime games. I know that, but your mindset needs to be on your team and you need to focus on your team. And I'm with Alec. I really don't care at this point what happens. I just need the Ravens to beat the Steelers week 16. If the Ravens end up being a wild card team, that's okay with me. Obviously, I want them to win the division, but I'm at the point where I just care about what my team does and how many games my team is winning, and I can't be bothered to pay attention to what the Steelers are doing. So I'm with Lamar there.
I'll still be rooting for the Browns on Sunday. Now, I want to bring someone else in. Been waiting to get her on the program. Someone that I've interacted with. We were venting to each other about a Ravens game. What was that, last year maybe? Seen her in the comments, talked with her in the comments. She has her own YouTube channel, and she's doing really well. Ravens Talk with Yolanda. I call her Miss B because of the last initial. Yolanda B. Hi, Miss B. It is great to finally be with you on the show. How are you doing, first off?
Good evening, Jason, and hello to everyone on the panel and all of those in the chat. I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me. How about you? How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm wondering what you think about what we were just talking about, because you were backstage for a handful of minutes. You've heard us talking about the division chances. Without putting that back up again, how are you feeling about the Ravens, 1-3 shot of winning this division? Can Pittsburgh lose, or what are the chances Pittsburgh loses to either Cincinnati or the Browns?
Margin for error for the Steelers to lose is very slim. I don't think that Tomlin is going to have his team ill-equipped going into battle against either the Browns or the Bengals. I'd be very surprised if the Steelers lost either game, but maybe one game I can perhaps see, and that would be the Bengals, just because I think Joe Burrow is now at a point where I think he mentioned last night, describe in one word, how do you feel about your team so far this year? And he said, I'm frustrated. So seeing a very frustrated Joe Burrow, that's a team to me that, I know the saying is true that you are what your record says you are. But for me, that team is one that can turn it on at any minute, almost like the Kansas City Chiefs, but not giving them that much credit. But that's a team that I could see the Steelers having a problem going against. But certainly I think they will come out with a win against the Browns.
So, Yolanda, I want to kick it right back to you on this. This Ravens demeanor, you have some fans in the comments too. Thanks everybody for all the comments. I'm going to try to get everyone more involved. As you can see, we have our hands full panel tonight, so I'm going to do the best I can. But something that I said on social media, a lot of people agree with. I also got some pushback, but I actually think that this loss against the Eagles could help this team. And the reason for it, Yolanda, is this. When we lost our previous games against the Steelers, against the Browns, especially against the Raiders, we looked at all these self-inflicted errors. That was the buzzword. Self-inflicted, we're our own worst enemy. And a lot of that, of course, is true when you're talking about the penalties and all the just self-inflicted mishaps. This Eagles game, I think, you can always point to things that we didn't do well, things that we can do better. But that Eagles defensive line manhandled us. Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell were doing a really good job out there. Like, that Eagles team did not take a back seat in talent to the Ravens. So hey, the Ravens lost fair and square to the Eagles. It wasn't a self-inflicted, oh, woe is me. If we didn't make all these mistakes, the Eagles wouldn't win. I look at it as more like the Eagles came in here and kicked our butts. And, even if you want to say, well, the Ravens are just as talented, I agree. But I think that this look in the mirror of, hey, this wasn't some kind of fluky loss. We lost. Could really help this team and humble this team and get it motivated for the second half.
I don't know that this team needs any more humbling, because if you look at the inconsistency of this team all season, there's not really, yes, we went on a stretch and we won 5 games straight. And so outside of that, okay, fine, I'll give you that. But outside of that, winning that stretch of winning the games that we won, other than that, this has been a roller coaster ride for the entire season. For me, when I watch a Ravens game this year, I don't know what team I'm watching. What team is going to actually be put out there on that field that particular day? So watching the team kind of, I don't want to say self-implode, but watching the team fall woefully short this past week against the Eagles, to me, this was a litmus test. And we failed fair and square. And in order to be serious about making it to a push for the playoffs, and I do think we're going to make it into the playoffs, but have a serious contending mindset that we want to win a Super Bowl and we want to do it this year, I don't know anymore that I have the confidence, the faith in this team unless and until I see some serious and major and immediate changes, because you cannot go up against elite teams and falter the way you did and expect to come out on the other side of victory.
Excellent. I love the way you put that. So well explained. You might be a lawyer or something. You should look into doing that for your future. Just a little inside joke there. Ken, could this loss be a good thing for us? Or, is it more like you're saying, Yolanda's, basically saying, look, it was a litmus test that we failed miserably.
So they did get manhandled on the trenches on both sides of the ball. So that's bad. Any way you look at that, I can't paint rosy drawings on that. In terms of their playoff loss, it hurt them dramatically. It cut their chances to win the division in half, probably. So that's, I can't make that smell like roses either. But in terms of how bad a loss it was to how good a team, I don't think it's that bad a loss at all. I don't think it says much bad about their ability to contend in the playoffs. I think the Eagles are now probably about the favorite to win the NFC. And some of that has to do with home field. So that would give an edge to Detroit there. Obviously, it'd be a huge advantage for the Eagles if they can play that game outdoors at home. And so we'll see how the NFC playoffs run out. But I think the Eagles are one of the teams that really are scary that'll be in the tournament.
Ashley, Alec, add on to that. How do you feel about this loss? And could it be a jumping off point for the Ravens to really look in the mirror, change some things, get themselves together? This bye week seems to come at a really good time, by the way, Ashley.
Yeah, I agree that the bye week is something that could potentially save them coming into these next few games that they really have to win out. But I feel like we say this with every loss. Every loss that the Ravens have had this season have been so frustrating and preventable, but have just happened. And I'm getting kind of tired of talking about it because we're talking about the same mistakes that they make in these games and I can say that it's easy for us at home when we're watching the game to say this is all the things you should have done to fix it. But there's just way too much talent on this team. And even like the defense was improving. I was confident in that coming into this matchup, but then special teams and Tucker, there's still questions around that. And I think Yolanda raises a good question too. Is like, I just don't feel confident this season with this team going into the playoffs. Last year, I was completely different. I felt like that was the year. I was so confident in that team. And now I feel like it's almost the polar opposite. Is like, not to say I don't have any confidence, because I mentioned there is so much talent on this team, potential Hall of Fame head coach on this team, that they can get it done. I just don't know that they're going to get it done this year.
Okay, so we have a new guest for the show. He's been stewing down there for a while. Hope he's not upset with me over this, but someone that I'm proud to call a supporter of mine. We can talk about life. We can talk about the kids. I refer to him, guys, as the ambassador to the Ravens because so many fans from other teams watch him, and we're going to bring him on right now. Check this guy out.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing, man?
Graven Vids and Graven.
I was doing it in Graven.
What's going on, man? I feel like y'all are all family. I feel like we all go back like for years, man. Each and every one of y'all. Ken, I remember when we worked together a couple of years ago. Ashley, you already know what time it is, and you've been very vocal about how you feel about these Baltimore Ravens for the longest. Yolanda B, been waiting for you to start the YouTube channel for so long, and then you finally jumped out there and it's going good. You probably got the best camera out of all Ravens YouTubers. And Alec, my guy, all love and respect. I remember meeting you in person for the first time a couple years ago. Well, that was last year at the Tom Grassi event at Jimmy Seafood. And then my guy, Jason, you already know what time it is. So all love for all five of y'all, man. And I appreciate you having me on, Jason.
That's the energy I expect from Engraven. Thank you so much. So what have you been hearing backstage, Engraven? I let you sit a little bit too long back there. What you've been hearing, how you've been feeling about what we're saying? Just start us off. I know you're not short on thoughts.
Oh, that's funny. I like how you put that. As far as the division, like I feel like Ravens, they do have a legitimate shot, but I feel like it's a very, very small shot. With the Pittsburgh Steelers, I do like how Ashley said earlier, she feels like, a lot of times we do hear about Steelers teams like this when they start off really hot and they're looking like a powerhouse team, but then toward the end of the season, they kind of fall off a bit. We can hope that is the case with these Pittsburgh Steelers. Will it be? I don't necessarily think so. They do have a tough schedule where they play the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Ravens all within 10, 11 days. So that's going to be quite a schedule for them. But the Ravens, last year was great. And I think last year really just it set a nice tone because Ravens, there was a point early on in the season where they kind of needed some help, but then they took care of business throughout the majority of the season, and they went 13-4. And one of those losses was the very last game of the season where they didn't even put the starters in. Right now, they've already lost more games this year with their starters than they lost last year for the entire season. So Ravens did this to themselves. Like Yolanda did mention, she does expect them to get into the playoffs, and I do agree with that. But as far as the division, it could happen, but I don't really see it happening right now. I would love for it to happen, but I know how a lot of Ravens fans are. They're like, oh, man, no, I don't want no home playoff game. When Ravens are at home, they get all high and mighty, and they overlook the opponent, then they end up getting caught slipping. I'm not really worried about that, but the thing with the Ravens for me is just get in. Just make it to the playoffs. Once you're in, everybody has a shot. And Ravens, I don't know. I know, Ken, I know you would know the number exactly, but what is their percent of making the playoffs right now? I know it's 90 something, I think.
Yeah, be 97, 98. And
Okay.
it depends on what system you use, but it's certainly in the 90s.
Okay, so they got a high percent of making the playoffs, and I expect them to get in. But then at that point, it's like, all right, who are you going to be now? What are you going to do now? What kind of team are you going to be? What's going to be your identity? It seems like the Baltimore Ravens throughout a lot of this season, they have sort of an identity crisis. They still looking like they trying to figure out exactly who they are. But again, my thing is just get in the playoffs. Just make it in there. Yeah, you did this to yourself. You're 8-5. I wish your record was better, but it also could be a lot worse. It could be 5-8. It could be a lot of different things. And the things that I see from them, their biggest issues, I feel like maybe minus Justin Tucker. And I just don't know with him, right? It's so weird. But I feel like a lot of this stuff is fixable. The defense, oh my goodness, the defense was so bad for the first 10 games. And then they bench Marcus Williams. They cut Eddie Jackson. They start Kyle Hamilton and Ardarius Washington at deep safety. And the defense completely, they do a 180. And it's like, are these the same defense that we were watching before? It was the craziest thing. And the defense has been playing really, really good for the past 3 games against the Steelers, against the Chargers, and against the Eagles. So it's like, boom, all right, they fixed that, which was a big issue. Another big issue for them has been penalties. The penalties have been going absolutely crazy. With this game against the Eagles, hopefully that's something that will happen in the future and consistently now. But in this game against the Eagles, the penalties were great. They did great with the penalties this game. What's crazy about this game against the Eagles, I think they had more passing yards, more rushing yards, more total yards than the Eagles. And they led the Eagles in so many stats, but they still lost. They still lost the game.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm going to kick it to Alec. I'm going to get to Alec and Ken before I let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Alec, you've been sitting there for a while. You know, what Ingraven's saying is just so spot on. And it's part of the reason that I'm actually optimistic about this team. Forget about the division for a second, but going into the playoffs, you look at the defense rounding into form. You look at how good the offense has been all along. I feel like the chances of this team winning 4 games in the playoffs is still okay. I mean, you have your favorites in Detroit and Philly in the NFC, and Buffalo, of course, and Kansas City in the AFC. But I look at those teams and I say, any given Sunday, the Ravens could beat those teams. So some adjustments, of course, I would like to see some changes on the offensive line. That's probably not going to happen. But you have Lamar Jackson as your quarterback, Alec, and I'm pretty confident going out there, especially with the defensive adjustments that we've made, giving up, limiting the big plays, putting Kyle back there, that this Ravens team could go on a run like in 2012, by the way, when they were 9-4 and a 4th and 29 away from missing the playoffs.
Yeah. There's a lot of pattern matching you can do to be like, oh, we're on the 2012 path. Life's good. and say like, this is going to all work out. But I honestly, I've kind of just taken this tone, and maybe it's just the Pollyanna in me of being like, well, we've seen it be all rosy in 19 and 23, and it didn't get us anywhere. Maybe we need all this in-season testing. And it kind of lines up with my approach of the season this year. I kind of entered the season, maybe a little still deflated from the conference championship game. I don't know. And it's just like, show me something I haven't seen, Ravens. Like, I want to see you grow. I want to see something different this year as far as their ability to bounce back. And we've been seeing a good bit of it, honestly. We've been able to see them have these comeback victories. We've been able to see them adjust again. It happened in 19, but figure out a defense that will work. And it seems like we're on the right path there now. I think it's really promising that they're limiting explosive plays on defense. I think that's a really good way to win in the playoffs. So I like that. I still think the offense has the pieces. Sometimes they don't score as many points and they falter. And I saw a really good comment on Twitter. Don't let all this distract you from the Tucker problem, which I think is a much bigger problem than Deontay Johnson at the end of the day. That is a problem that needs to be solved. And I really hope they figure it out, because when you miss a field goal, the field position is usually fantastic for the other team, and you get no points. And this offense is so good that going forward on fourth down and changing the way you approach third down because of it, and second down, and all the knock-on effects of that is powerful. And I just don't know what to do with Tucker. It is so damning of a situation they are in. It's not just any kicker. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. I would still say, but probably the greatest to ever do it. And you want to give him the opportunity to figure this out. But this is a contender. And I don't think we move on from him during this time. But that's actually the biggest thing I'm concerned about right now. It's not Deontay. It's not the fact that we're going to be a wild card team. Maybe. It's the fact that I don't trust a phase of the game that's very important right now at all. And that I think that needs to be fixed more so than anything. So,
Alec, I'm going to get you out of here on this. What would be your final message for the Ravens? Like, if any Ravens are watching, or if they cared, or if it could be to Harbaugh, it could be to EDC. What would you say to this team if you were standing up in front of them right now as this message during the bye week to try to get them right? What would you like to see? What would you say to them?
Play your best players, and specifically talking about the offensive line. I still want to see. I still want to see what Cleveland could do. I still want to see what Jones could do.
I love it. Alec Polianis, thank you for always stepping up, stepping in, brother. Love you. Take care of that baby. Take care of the wifey. And we'll catch up soon, man. We'll get you back on the show real soon, okay?
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. Can't wait to watch the rest. Take care.
Love you, brother. See you. So, Ken, I'm going to kick it to you here. Same thing, same basic question. If you have something to say, go ahead and say it. But I also want to get what would be your message to this team? I know you think like a coach GM. What would you like to see? What would you say to this team going in? And of course, any other comments that you've had since the last time you got the chance to speak.
The way you're phrasing the question, I'm going to say find the leader who can talk to Deontay Johnson and try and talk him down off what is a very far limb on the tree and back towards the trunk and the rest of the team, and hope that works out. Because I think the Ravens would probably like for it to work out, particularly if the Bateman injury is serious. I've got 3 points about the Ravens going forward. Number one is that the recovery of Pearson Jones after the bye will be just enormous in terms of changing the defense, and the having one of those big men on the field every down dramatically improves the pass rush. Ravens pass rush completely driven from the inside. It is not an outside in pass rush like the Watt Steelers or the Watt Highsmith Steelers. It's much more of a from the inside out pass rush, and they'll all play better if those guys are on the field play after play. The second one is, and Alex touched on what you have to do differently on third and fourth down in plus territory with Tucker. We're going to see some moves here that I hope a lot of the old school fans aren't going to be upset with, because it might be appropriate to go for it on 4th and 9 at the 35-yard line instead of kicking a 53-yard field goal. And that's something the Ravens are going to have to, I think, embrace down the stretch, whatever that does to Tucker's feelings. I really, honestly, at this point, I don't think you can make that be the deciding factor. You need to let the horse drag the cart instead of the other way around. And the third thing I'd say is that the 2012 team was nowhere near as good as this team. Nowhere, not even in the same zip code, area code as this team. They've got a much better quarterback, but they're better all over the rest of the field as well. That 2012 team went on a great historic run, great playoff run. We enjoyed the hell out of it. This team is more capable of doing that. And the AFC, frankly, is much more wide open than it's been in years. So this is a good opportunity for the Ravens, I think, come back. And even if they have to win some games on the road, which it looks like is going to happen, it's still not impossible for them to make a Super Bowl run here and make us proud.
Ken, all great stuff, man. Sorry we didn't get to all the stuff that we wanted to get to with you on the show, but yeah, man, I'm most excited, honestly, Ken, about the defensive line depth. I think that you really hit the nail on the head, and something that we're going to talk about going forward in this show. It's an inside pass rush. It's not edge rusher driven. It's push the pocket. Even saw Aikman, or was it Aikman? Whoever was calling the game, basically say it's a knockback pass rush, and I'm seeing that with Matabike's approach when he gets one-on-ones. He is not trying to put a bunch of moves on the guy. It's just a straight bull rush. So they want to push the pocket from the inside out. Having Travis Jones completely healthy, having Michael Pierce back will really help that. So, Ken, Film Study Ravens on Twitter, Film Study Baltimore, his website. Y'all know him. Just an excellent content creator, and it's been doing it for a long time. And nobody works harder than Ken. gotten to see a little bit of that up in person. So, Ken, thanks so much, man, for taking time out your night and joining us today.
All right, take it easy. Nice meeting you, Yolanda, and nice seeing everybody else again. Talk to you
Nice
later.
to meet you.
Good stuff,
Ken,
Ken.
Ken McCusick, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only. Ashley, you're next on the list here. So joining me every week. Love you, appreciate you. We're going to drill down here with Yolanda and Engraven coming up. Anything that you want to say, but I also want to get your message to this Ravens. Like Ken said, man, this team is more talented than the 2012 team. And you can go back and look at some of the teams that have won it all. This Ravens team is just as talented, if not more than them. What would you say to this group if you were up in front of the team?
I'm going to kind of piggyback off of what Alex said, and I'm going to say this is specifically toward the coaching, is to keep politics out of the team and just play who's earned it, who's making a difference on this team, and take the people who just aren't doing their job out as well. And I think that was a funny comment about Tucker. I think it might be a little late in the season, but I think he would also benefit from seeing like a sports psychologist or something, because this is such a weird fall off that we've seen from Justin Tucker. It's nothing that I've ever seen before in an athlete, especially someone who was I believe that he's the greatest to ever do it. So I just don't know where the disconnect is with him. I hope he can figure it out. I hope it doesn't resort to that. I hope he can figure it out in these next few weeks, because we really do need him. And I think that he is the biggest problem, like Alec mentioned as well. I think we do need to have a very serious conversation about what's going on there, because we're just abandoning points that we need on the board that make the difference in all of these games. So I think that would be my final message to this team.
I love it. Ashley, thank you so much. We will see you next week at 9:15, same bat time, same bat program for the New York Giants preview. I think we're going to have a lot of positive matchups to point to on that one. So we'll see. Hopefully we get healthy, and I will see you next week, Miss Priyanka. Follow Ashley on Twitter. I don't know where. Oh, yeah, I have to take this off. There she is, alleged Ashley, formerly Pisces Princess, now alleged Ashley. Follow her on Twitter for all her Ravens thoughts and general sports thoughts and wisdom of life stuff. She is very wise for a young lady. Ashley, love you to death. We'll check you out later, okay?
Have a good night.
All right, Ashley. See you.
Ashley.
So Yolanda, got to come to you on this Tucker situation. What are your general thoughts? What are you talking about on the channel? How are you feeling? Like, should we bring in a couple of kickers during the bye week is what I kind of want to get at, to at least have, okay, well, look, if it gets any worse, we know we're going to choose this guy over this guy because we've already worked out a few guys. Man, Justin Tucker, talk to me. I mean, our hearts are broken over here over this for the man himself.
Sure. One thing about life is you're going to have to, at times, make those difficult decisions that are uncomfortable, decisions that might not feel good, decisions that might even keep you up at night. But nevertheless, as an adult, you have to make them. And when I hear it being said that, oh, Justin Tucker just needs to get back on Right Street, or Justin Tucker knows what he needs to do, and he just needs to do it. These are simple fixes. I have to tend to disagree, because I look at the evidence that's been presented this season, and I am evidence-based. So if we look at the evidence that's been presented consistently throughout these 13 games, what have we seen? We've seen several missed field goals. We've even now seen missed extra point attempts regularly. Maybe not every game, because some games he's okay, and then some days he's not. But when you are talking about the NFL, and Engraven says it all the time, football is a game of inches. You don't get a second chance. When you miss that field goal, when you miss that extra point, that's it. It's done. You've left points on the field. And yes, is it probably the worst thing you can do is to put your kicker in that situation, to have a game on the line and expect or demand that he make the actual kick? Sure, it's tough, but that's a part of you being a professional athlete. There are going to be those tight, close games where we need a reliable kicker to come in and seal the game for us. And if we cannot confidently say that Justin Tucker is able to do it, not what I think he can do, what I speculate, I hope he can get right, I believe in him. The evidence has shown that he hasn't been able to do it. So I am all for bringing in someone else during the bye week, just as an insurance policy.
And in Graven, you know, Yolanda's making just so much great points. That's why I love her so much. But
Right.
like, you know, the coaches and the players are saying what you should say. What you should say. We believe in Justin Tucker. He's doing it right in practice. You're not just going to come out and say, "Oh, yeah, we need to get a new kicker" when the reporters ask you. So, like Yolanda's saying, you know, I don't believe it. I forget how you put it, but the evidence isn't there that he's going to be right going forward. You know, I don't blame the coaches for the way they're talking about Justin Tucker. But the facts are the facts. Do you agree with Yolanda? And it's kind of where I'm leaning. Bring in a few guys to at the very least, have your choice of next man up. You know, get to see these guys in person while you got a week with nothing going on.
No, I agree 1,000,000%. Something that we've been talking about that Yolanda just mentioned too, which is a really good point. Ravens have to be better at making the tough decisions. I remember when they first benched Marcus Williams, like I was surprised, man. I'm like, right, like $70 million Marcus, would they really bench him? And because I'm like, that's just something that the Baltimore Ravens, they don't do. So that paying somebody a lot of money, and then if they not performing, throwing them on the bench, I was like, whoa, that was crazy. And then I was still shocked when they benched Eddie Jackson, even though they weren't paying him nearly as much as they paying Marcus Williams, but I was still shocked when they benched him. And then when they benched both of them, I said, what Ravens are these? And then they cut Eddie Jackson. So I said, whoa. Of course, we found out about the backstory afterwards, but still, like Ravens don't typically move like that. So they have shown that they can make some tough decisions. I think a lot of people, they did not like when Rex Ryan said it, but I do think what Rex Ryan said about Justin Tucker is true. He said if his name wasn't Justin Tucker, if he was a lot of other kickers, then he wouldn't have the leeway that he's been having recently, and they would have been brought somebody else in. I do think, like, again, it rubbed a lot of Ravens fans the wrong way, but I do think that is a legitimate point by Rex Ryan. If it wasn't Justin Tucker, and we appreciate everything that Justin Tucker has done for the Ravens since 2012. He's been, like everybody mentioned, the best kicker, phenomenal kicker, most accurate kicker. He did his thing. But recently, like Yolanda mentioned, the evidence has been there where he has not been doing his thing. What's scary about this is that this has been happening all season long with Justin Tucker. And recently, like in the Steelers game and against the Eagles, it was a lot worse than it has been in other games because it was multiple field goals missed. It was multiple regular field goals and then the point after the touchdown. So a lot of points being left on the field. You think about it, and she brought up this point, and I was thinking about if it was the playoffs, like what if it's a playoff game? And like you mentioned, Yolanda, you don't want to put your kick in that situation, but the offense is not going to score every single drive. We wish they would. That'd be great, but they're not going to score every single drive. So think about it. If it's fourth quarter, it's 2 seconds left, and the Ravens are down by 2, and they get to the 32-yard line. So you need a 50-yard field goal to win the game in the playoffs. Are you going to trust Justin? I mean, you would have no choice if he's on the team and he's the only kicker that you have on the team to trot him out there. But are you going to trust that he's going to be able to close that game out for you and win it? That's a really, really scary thought right now. Like before, years ago, thinking about that 50-yard field goal, a 40-yard field goal, even a 34-yard. Yeah, Justin Tucker got that JT all day, no problem. But now, in the end of 2024, really the regular season for 2024, but certainly where we at right now in 2024, thinking about that is really, really, really scary, man. It really is. So with Justin Tucker, what's also worrisome to me is I know John Harbaugh is obviously the head coach, and John Harbaugh, for the most part, like 99% of the time, he will publicly back his guys. If he don't publicly back you, then he really ain't feeling you like that at all. And like he really got it out for you. But 99% of the time, he's backing his guys. So with him talking about Justin Tucker the other day, it scared me though, because he said we're gonna stick with Justin Tucker. And somebody asked about the potential of bringing in other kickers. Like even to send a message to Justin Tucker, and Harbaugh said, "Oh yeah, well we could do that, but no, we don't need to send a message to Justin Tucker." And it's like, man, why is it with Justin Tucker, who's a big part of this team, obviously, why is the same logic, the same sort of mindset that was applied to the defense with Marcus Williams, with Eddie Jackson? Why isn't that same logic applied to Justin Tucker and his situation? Because just like the defense, they were costing the team. Justin Tucker has been costing the team games as well. And it hasn't all been on him, but in his area, he's been a problem. He hasn't been reliable, and he's been consistently unreliable. So I wish they would address Justin Tucker the same way they address Marcus Williams, address Justin Tucker the same way they address Eddie Jackson. Obviously, different positions, different phases of football, but still phases of football that's impacting your team in a negative way.
Well, yeah, and Yolanda, I'm just going to go with the difference here. Point out the difference between actions and words, because confidence is important for every player, but I imagine for a kicker, it's huge. And just some of the looks, and it's got to be draining on Justin Tucker himself's confidence at this point, to where like even when Tucker said, or Harbaugh kind of changed his tone a little bit, Yolanda, where he was like, "I don't plan on doing that right now." He added the words "right now," like leaving the door open that it could happen, that he could make a change. So I don't really like, like I said, I don't really let like what's being said positively about Tucker. Actions are going to speak louder than words for me.
That's true.
For sure. And I get it. For those who feel like, hey, I'm going to give Tucker a pass, I'm going to give him leeway, I understand, because you take in the aggregate, what has Justin Tucker done for this organization over the years? And you are tied or you're connected with him. I get it. That's human nature. And there's nothing wrong with that. However, on the opposite end of the pendulum, if you are in the NFL, in which we all know it stands not for long, and it's a what have you done for me lately type of industry, if you are not being productive right now, not what you were last year, the year before, 5, 10 years ago, if you are not producing right now, then if your stance as an organization is, like Marlon Humphrey said in his press conference, the message was clear to the guys on the field. If you want to play ball, we'll get you out there. But if you don't, you'll have a seat on the bench.
That's right.
That's
right.
That mantra, that philosophy needs to be equally distributed to all phases of the game in order for us to really be serious and have a shot at winning it all this year.
I have someone else backstage I wanted to bring in. That's why I wanted to interrupt. He's been sitting here, and this man has a microphone, quite frankly, it's kind of intimidating. Like, I don't even know what to think about this. It looks like he's from the future. Maybe he is like the Thomas Edison of podcasting, may you say. He has had me on his program many times. Not sure if his partner is joining us tonight or not, but here's the man with the golden voice. Y'all know him, Purple Rain Podcast. Sudden death. Houston resident at this point. Is that true, or are we still in the process?
No, indeed, in Houston, actively in Houston. So I'm actually an hour behind you guys, and it feels a little bit earlier. So I feel like I kind of have a little bit of an advantage right now. But kudos to you guys for being up this late. I know it's late and it's a weekday, but thank you, Jason, so much for having me on again. I can't wait to talk some ball with you, Yolanda, and Engraven. Great to see you all again as well.
And I love you. And I just want to say, I wish I could dig in more with each one of you on some of these topics. I know I feel like I'm cutting y'all short, but I just want to get everybody involved in this bye-week special. And Sutton, I'm gonna put you under the microscope, bro, because Just Me Pete has a question/comment. So I'm gonna start with Sutton, go to Engraven and Yolanda on this subject right here. Y'all want to bench Justin Tucker and bring in an insurance policy. Who are they going to put on the practice squad or inactive? You're going to put Justin Tucker on the practice squad, then he's getting signed elsewhere. Justin Tucker is going to be a Kansas City Chief if that happens, making 50-yard field goals in the playoffs, breaking the organization's heart, and making every Ravens fan, question their own soul. So I can't lie to you. I kind of thought about this before, like, just the worst case scenario guy in me. It would just go figure if we cut Justin Tucker and he signs with Kansas City, or and he's out there kicking the game. When can my fragile ego handle this? Just Me P's comment. I'm gonna kick it to you, and I want to go around the horn on this one, if you don't mind, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously if he went to KC, if we put him on the practice squad and he got claimed and, he went to Kansas City, that would be a complete shift in his confidence for the better, because he's in an entirely new situation with a dynasty franchise, and like just an absolute dynasty is just undeniable right now. It's kind of rivaling the Patriots from the 2010s. But, for him to be benched on our team and for us to get an insurance policy, I don't think that right now that's the option for us to go. Now, a couple of days ago, my knee-jerk reaction to him missing 3 field goals in one game was, yeah, maybe we should bring in some competition. But I kind of had to kind of reel myself in from that and realize that this guy's been around for a very, very long time. And I know it's a not for long league and it's a what have you done for me lately league. But I think at this point, our hands are kind of tied with Justin Tucker. Like, we can't necessarily just completely cut him off right now after everything he's done for us. I just think that it's just not the way to go. There are certain guys who I did have a little bit of interest in, who are kind of sitting on the couch right now. Rodrigo Blankenship is a guy who's been sitting on the couch, who I know has been hitting field goals just on his own. Bring a guy like that in just for some healthy competition. I think if we do bring in some competition, it can just be a healthy competition. If there's going to be anybody who's up to the challenge, it's going to be Justin Tucker. So that's what I think about, bringing in, an insurance policy. And if he would go off to a KC, I definitely think that he would be banging through 50-yarders, 60-yarders even.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. With Just Me P, what he said, we want to bench Justin Tucker and bring in an insurance policy. Yes, yes, I do. I can't speak for everybody, but yes, I do. Now, you said who are they going to put on a practice squad or inactive? Not Justin Tucker. Well, you have him inactive, but you wouldn't put him on a practice squad, because to do that, you would have to release him, then sign him back to the practice squad. I think they said it would be like a 7.5 in dead money if they release Justin Tucker. And so he wouldn't be released. He just wouldn't be he wouldn't be active. Like, look at Marcus Williams, who we were just talking about a couple of minutes ago. Marcus, he makes way more money than Justin Tucker. He was performing bad. Baltimore Ravens ain't cut him. They ain't put him on a practice squad. They had him inactive. They had him on the bench, and they had somebody in to replace him. So I would take that same approach with Justin Tucker. And hopefully that kicker, that whoever they brought in, they could get it done. And if not, I mean, hopefully we don't even got to have that conversation. But that's what I would do. Because if with Justin Tucker, Yolanda mentioned it because they've been saying it in the press conferences, and they've been saying it for weeks in the press conferences. Justin Tucker will be like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what I got to do. John Harbaugh will be like, oh, yeah, he knows exactly what he got to do. And they'll keep saying, he knows exactly what he got to do, but how come it ain't being done? It's not being done. The kicks are still being missed, and a lot of them are being missed at a higher rate than he's ever missed before in his entire career. So obviously something is way, way, way off with JT. So yeah, I would bench him, not cut him right now, because you really can't, but I would bench him and bring in somebody else.
So Yolanda, I want to get back to Just Me P before I kick it to you. Engraven's right about the money situation for that. I mean, I can't see a team. Roster spots are so precious, and we're grinding our jaw together when we see the inactives every week and being like, why is this guy inactive? Why don't he, there's so much disagreement. Roster spots are precious. Having 2 kickers on a team doesn't seem real practical from that aspect either. There's just so much involved here, Yolanda.
Mm-hmm. For sure. It's a delicate subject. And again, I get it. And emotions and feelings start to cloud, I would say. And that might be a term that I can use loosely, but emotions or attachments start to, I guess, for lack of better words, cloud, the thought process. And the thought process should always be, who are my best players right now to put this team in a position to succeed? That always needs to be the thought process. And I'm talking specifically for the front office, the coaches. Who are the best players right now who can give us an opportunity to stay in the fight one more day? Mm-hmm. And when we look at Justin Tucker and what he has done this season, to me, the answer is he's not been that guy that we need him to be, especially because we know this offense early on struggled to find out who they are. And in terms of when you have a struggling offense, or you have an offense that's yet to really take shape, you have to then rely on, okay, there might be situations or circumstances where we have to put a game in the hands of your kicker. It's not right. It's not fair. I don't like that personally, but sometimes, hey, that's how the cookie is going to crumble. And in those moments where we need Justin Tucker. How confident right now can you say in him that he is the best player to get the job done? Now, that brings up another question. Well, if he's not the best player, who is? That's a separate conversation. That's something for the coaches to make the decision, whether they bring someone else in. I don't know the answer to that one right now. I'd have to do research. But I'm only answering the first prong of the question is he the person that we can rely on and depend on right now? And to me,
Yeah.
the answer is no.
Yeah, Yolanda, I mean, it's so frustrating for me, just personally, because I don't know anything about kicking. I mean, I can tell you, I've coached a lot. I've coached a lot. I've studied a lot. I've gone to clinics. I've interned, done a lot of stuff that I really don't talk about on the channel. But kicking, I'm lost, bro. Like, I'm just as much as like I was talking to my wife about this, what she thought, what she would do, because she's seen Tucker's kicks, as many as I have. So I really don't know.
Yeah.
Now, Yolanda, I want to get you. I know you got to get out of here, so I want to kick it right back to you. Just
Sure.
the same question I asked the other fellows before they left. Your message to the team. Yeah, I have a feeling that you're going to go towards the do the right thing, play the right players, because that's been something you've been consistent in this entire season. Me on the O line, there's changes we can make on the O line. What would you say to this group of guys, or Coach Harbaugh, EDC? However you would spin it, to try to get this team right going forward? We've got 4 games. We got the playoffs ahead of us. This is a talented team, as Ken said, more talented team than 2012. One of the more talented teams in the league. Look around. This isn't being a homer. Look at those offensive statistics. Look at where the defense has come. This team has a chance to win some games in January. What are you going to say to them to get them on track?
Ooh, they probably don't want to hear from me, but
Yeah.
I would ask them, all of them, I would stand flat-footed in the room, looking them eyeball to eyeball, and I would say, how serious are each one of you about winning a championship this year? And I don't want you to answer me. I want you to answer your own self. And then I would tell them, if your answer is, oh, we're very serious, we're all in, then I would say, show me. And that would be my message.
Ravens Talk with Yolanda B, Miss B in my heart. That's where I start. So that's where I'm going to keep it.
Yeah.
Commenting, it's simply in Sutton's show, in Graven's channel. Remember the game we were talking to each other. We were DMing during the game. I wasn't watching the game with my family. We were going back and forth. Love Miss B. Hey, come draft season, I'm going to have you back on. I want to know what you think this team needs. Where are you going to take a tackle? Where are you going to take a guard? Where are you going to take defensive help? We're going to have you back on. But thank you so much for your time, Yolanda.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Everyone else, have a great night. And I will see you all around in these internet streets.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
All right,
Have a
good
great
night.
night, Yolanda.
Take care.
All right.
Yolanda B. She's wonderful, isn't she, guys?
Oh yeah, she good.
Yeah.
People.
Love her,
absolutely.
bro. And she can motivate me. I would like, maybe I could have her talk to, our kids in Graven.
Maybe
Get the little ones. Show me. Don't tell me. Show me. Let's do it. Better. Let's take the trash out. Let's get the homework done on time. Let's make sure we're going to our job right. I like that. I like that. Pick up your stuff around the house. Regular stuff.
Hey, Jason, can I bring you something really quick?
Please do.
And this is for Engraven as well, because I heard you guys. I just want to circle back just really, really quickly to the whole Justin Tucker topic. When it comes to saying, we have to go in a different direction because he's been struggling, we just have to be objective about the situation. I just want to know, and what the difference would be if at this point, hypothetically speaking, right, at what we're, week 13, week 14, something like that. What if Lamar Jackson had thrown 3 interceptions in 4 different games, and we've been losing games because of Lamar Jackson? At this point in the season, would you want to go in a different direction or get some competition going? And what would be the difference between that situation with Lamar and this situation with Tucker? Both of you guys.
I got an answer for you on this one.
Okay.
There are college kickers every Saturday making 45, 50 yards field goals. Josh Johnson is nowhere near close to Lamar Jackson. So I would just say that, with Tucker, it's not necessarily a talent thing. It seems to be a mental block thing. I have so many theories on this, but I would just say the difference in between how Justin Tucker's performing and someone on the streets is much smaller than how bad in that scenario, how terrible Lamar Jackson was playing and what Josh Johnson could bring. That would be how I would put it. That's the difference to me. Tucker's.
So you would want competition for Lamar, or you're saying you wouldn't want competition for Lamar Jackson if he was throwing that many interceptions, and there just seemed to be a mental block of some sort with him. Like same sort of deal. And I think the biggest thing for me, I know you say that like college kickers can bang through 40-50 yarders on a random Saturday and this and that, but at the same time, we just had people in the chat saying that, who are we going to bring in who's really going to step up like that in the playoffs in these important moments? I just don't exactly. There's no guarantee that he'd be better than Justin Tucker if we brought anybody up, just anybody. So I just don't know how real we're being with ourselves with this whole Justin Tucker situation. It's a very emotional thing, like Yolanda said, and I think it goes two ways. Right? The one way where, some people want to keep Justin Tucker starting, and then the other way where some people want to give him competition or get him out of here. And so I just think that we have to kind of be fair with it. And, like I said, to begin with, Justin Tucker, he's been around for a very, very long time. And like you said, it's a mental block. And I think that that's something that can be fixed. I think with like a conversation, we're going into the bye week, right? I think that the leaders on this team, and that includes Justin Tucker, even if he doesn't feel like one right now. So Lamar Jackson, Justin Tucker, Roquan Smith, Mark Andrews, Kyle Hamilton, guys like that, step up and have a conversation in the locker room. Everybody kind of talk things out and get on the same page. Maybe that's something that can kind of like galvanize the troops and get Justin Tucker back, right again. So I don't know. I just think we got to be a little bit more realistic with ourselves with this whole Justin Tucker thing, because I think our hands are tied really with him.
Yeah, that is such a great question, man. I love that question because it really makes you think like, what if it was Lamar in that situation? Now with Justin Tucker, the difference between him and Lamar, obviously different positions, but if Lamar threw 3 interceptions in the game a couple times this year, is there a pattern? Is there a pattern that's been going on for 2 years? Is it something that just happened this year, or is it a pattern for 2 years? Because with Justin Tucker, this has been happening since 2022, where we've seen this slow fall off. 2022 got a little rough. 2023 got a little rough. Then 2024 is like boom, it just came crashing down. So I think that's the biggest difference right there. You do make a really good point too. But again, it's still a great. I really love that question, man, because it's just so it got my mind. Like I was getting a little tired early because I just finished dinner before I came on here. But when you asked that question, man, it gave me a lot of energy because it's just such a thought-provoking question. It really made what if that was the case? How would you feel? But I just think it's been a pattern with JT. It ain't like it just came out of nowhere. It's been happening for the past couple of years. But like you did mention, the Ravens' hands, they are tied with JT, because I don't think any of us, we don't expect them to cut Justin Tucker. They're not going to cut Justin Tucker. We know that's not going to happen. Like I was saying earlier, though, I think because of his name, and obviously everything that he's been through with the Ravens, like you mentioned, he's been with the Ravens for a long time. Came through as an undrafted rookie free agent in 2012, beat out Billy Cundiff, who he was struggling, and the Ravens moved off from him. So, because remember, with Billy Cundiff, not that he was the best in the NFL, he wasn't on Justin Tucker, but Billy Cundiff he used to be a really good kicker, and then he had a fall off. What happened? And it was in the offseason, obviously, but Billy Cundiff had a fall off, and then in the playoffs, when everything was on the line to go to overtime, it went wide left, and in the offseason that cost the Ravens a game. Yeah, it cost the Ravens a game in the AFC Championship against the Patriots. And then the following offseason, they brought in competition and they had paid Billy Cundiff too, but they brought in competition, an undrafted rookie free agent kicker, Justin Tucker from Texas, and he ended up winning a job. And of course, the rest was history. So we don't want to go through that again like this during this season. We want to finish and go all the way and get it done. And I honestly still do believe they will. But we just it's frustrated and it's crazy because with Justin Tucker, I see Brandon just mentioned it. He said Jordan Stout is a common denominator. Yeah, that has the timing does match up because 2022, that's when Sam Cook retired, and then that's when Jordan Stout started being the holder for Justin Tucker. Is that the issue? I'm on the same boat as Jason. I mean, he got way more football knowledge and experience than me. I don't know nothing from nothing, especially when it comes to no kicking, man. So
Brandon, Brandon, I gotta jump in, man. I just can't. I've seen. Look, I one thing I can say is I played sports until my body physically broke down. I had medical issues that y'all know about. When you go from playing at 30 years old to you go to you're playing with 35 years old, I'll use a baseball analogy here. You can't throw it all the way to home plate anymore all the time. And sometimes you can. Sometimes your body responds. Sometimes you go from first base to third base like you were 20 something. And other times you're running as fast as you can, brother, and you're running in mud. And it's just like I've experienced that playing sports, 3 times, 4 times a week and all weekend playing softball. Justin Tucker has to learn his body, his 34-year-old body, his 35-year-old body. You do the same thing, you're not going to get the same result that you always have. And that's a tough thing. I would say the reason I'm bringing this up, Brandon, is we saw it last year with the longer field goals. It was, they're over 50 yards. So he's not as reliable. Well, my philosophy on that is he had to kick those 55 yarders or a 52 yarder, like he would have to approach a 60 yarder. And what happens when you have to kick a ball like you're making a 60 yarder? You're losing the accuracy. So to me, it's been a slow, it's more than the holder. I think that his body is getting older. You've got to kick it. I also noticed that Justin Tucker kicks with a lot of draw. So I don't know if you've noticed it, but imagine your prime Justin Tucker kick. It's flipping end over end real fast. We don't see that anymore, by the way. And it draws left for the first split second. Looks like it's going to hit the left goalpost and then just curves right down the middle. Like he doesn't have that kind of explosiveness in his leg. So I've heard the holder talk. I've seen videos on the holder talk. Brandon, I respect your opinion. I just think it's an age thing because we saw him missing the longer ones last year. Now it's starting to filter into the 40-somethings and the extra points. Sut, tell me I'm crazy, brother.
I think you might be just a little bit. And I kind of agree with Brandon on that one a little bit more because when I really sit back and think about it, the mechanics that go into a field goal, it is so intricate. There's so many different moving parts and you have to have a certain level of chemistry in order to have a certain level of consistency with it. And I feel like that makes so much sense. And ever since Jordan Stout has been in the fold and, we kind of broke up the wolf pack, right? Justin Tucker has struggled. And I don't think that, and I can't even speak because I'm not even 34 yet. Full disclosure. I'm that young. I'm not 34, so I can't speak for a 34-year-old's body, but I don't think that Justin Tucker is necessarily old for a kicker. I don't. So I think it's more so just kind of maybe a chemistry issue. Plus, since he's the one missing the kicks, he knows the onus is on him at the end of the day. That's what leads to the mental issue as well and the confidence issue. So I think it's all of those things kind of compounding. And I really just hope that Justin Tucker can really drown out all of the noise, because when you see stats on ESPN, shows like Get Up and other shows like that are saying he's missed 22 points worth of kicks and we've lost by a combined total of 22 points in all of our 5 losses. When you see stuff like that, and if you're Justin Tucker, it's got to really just kind of take the wind out of your sails just a little bit more. So I hope he's really blocking out all of the noise, because I think that if he is kind of letting it get to him, it might can get worse from here.
It's such a tricky situation, man.
Yeah.
We obviously all want the fix for it, but we all got our different ways of how we feel like it should be handled and could be handled. But bottom line is that obviously we all want the same thing. We all want the Ravens to do well. We all want the Ravens to have success. And since Justin Tucker is going to be the kicker, then I don't think they're going to bring in somebody else. I don't envision them doing that. But since they're going to ride with Justin Tucker, we just hope he gets it right. Straight up. We hope whatever the issue is that they get it right. I would hope, because I know there's been conversation about Jordan Stout. I would hope and I would think that if Jordan Stout was the issue, that they might have made a switch there.
Right, because you can find another holder and a punter. Let's not act like Jordan Stout's booming the ball and graving 50, 60 yards every time. And this unbelievable part, you can find plenty of guys that can hold too, to your point. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. So, I don't know. We're just gonna see, man. It's scary, man, because this is what, for me, this is how I felt about the defense earlier this year. Because the defense earlier this year was really, really bad, and I'm just like, man, after week 1. I'm like, all right, hope they get better in week 2. And week 2 happened. Hope they get better in week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8. Hopefully they get better. And it wasn't until they made that tough decision where that's when they finally did get better. So with Justin Tucker, it's obviously different because the defense is 11 bodies out there. With the field goal unit, well, it is 11 bodies, but it's obviously way different. Those, obviously, the offensive line, they got to block, but then there's the long snapper, the holder, and then the kicker. And like Sutton was just saying, it's such an intricate, there's so many details that goes into kicking.
Precise. Yeah, precise, right.
And it all got to be on point. So just got to hope they get it right, man. That's it. Just got to hope whatever it is, it ends up getting fixed.
Well, hey, I got to say, we've talked with Justin Tucker a lot. I think we should get to some other stuff because I actually have a bunch of stuff here that I want to talk about. But one of the things that I'm most excited about, Sutton, on your show with Simply, and I got the message from Simply, by the way. Rest up, brother. I'll catch you next time. You guys, when you bring up your midweek report on Thursday nights, you have the I week. You even use the term the I word report. So when you're looking at players who may or may not play in the game that week, you're more superstitious than even I am. You won't even say the word. It is the bye week, though, Sut. And I got to say, the Ravens are in decent shape. And I think that this bye week is really going to help some guys on this team. That we've done a good job of dodging some bullets this year. Mm-hmm. When I think about Travis Jones, when I think about Michael Pierce, when I think about Ronnie Stanley, who's playing more than he's played in a lot, the veteran guys on this team, Kyle Hamilton, man, he's been beat up. Roquan coming off the hamstring. Lamar himself was missing practice with back and knee injuries, and I noticed the ball sailing on him a little bit more the last few weeks, especially early in games before he warms up, where he's just not getting his entire body in it. We're seeing a lot of high throws. Like Sut, I really feel good about this team. The bye week that we're getting right here late, where we're about to go into the stretch of 3 games in 10 days, a brutal stretch against other teams, by the way, who are playing 3 teams in 10 days. So we don't have the disadvantage over them there. We're actually on our bye week now, which is great. Something that Pittsburgh, already had. So I think there's reason for optimism with this team that's been beat up physically and mentally, missed kicks, penalties, just a bunch of heartbreaking losses, to where this bye week can help us rest physically and mentally, Sut.
Yeah. No, I mean, and the 2 players that really stand out for me are going to be Michael Pierce and Travis Jones. Mm-hmm. Every game is won or lost in the trenches, and especially in December and January and, hopefully February. But that's really what it comes down to for me, because Michael Pierce, being the run stuffer that he is, teams are going to be trying to run the football, play hard-nosed football. We got the Steelers, we got the Browns again. So it's going to be tough sledding. And I think that also with Travis Jones, he's just a mover of men. That's what he is. He's a mover of men, and like, he can actually get after the quarterback as well. He has that ability, and I cannot wait to see him back at 100%. I think we also dodged a bullet with Kyle Hamilton last week. I thought that might have been way more serious than it was, but it wasn't. So that is good for him. Roquan, of course, we want him to be at full speed. We need him to be at full speed. I don't know if you guys saw what the Eagles were saying about Roquan after the game, how, he was calling out their plays and whatnot. So, he's got the instincts. He's just got to get healthy, man. And I think that he can actually peak in the playoffs, just like the rest of this defense. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, and to Sean's point, Engraven, by the way, he says that his baby mama says that you look like Ray J. No Diddy. It's important to say these days. But we wasn't moving anybody Sunday, Engraven. It's true. When I see Travis Jones playing on one leg, and he can't put any weight on that left foot, bro. It's his left foot. I know it because I've seen so much tape on it. Or maybe he gives you 5 snaps, and it gives out on him, and he comes back in for another 5 snaps. Man, don't forget, Travis Jones making impact plays, more than 1, more than 2 a game. I can tell you from my notes. Wait till you see the end of the year highlights. But that man has slowed down a lot in this last, since he sprained his ankle, he's playing through it. We need Travis Jones for this pass rush. Matabike needs him. Michael Pierce will help. We finally got Kyle back at free safety, a true free safety position. He still creeps up for now and again to play, and they'll trust Ardarius to take the back. But the upside on this defense, like, I think these numbers are deceiving. I don't think our pass defense is as bad as these numbers say right now. I don't think our run defense, obviously, honestly, is as good as these numbers say. But I think overall, think about like guys that we don't even know what their problem is. Like Engraven, if you got a banged up knee, and you're still be able to practice through it, we're not putting you on the practice report, bro. We're not going to let the other team know that. So you can bet all 53 of these guys are sore, and this bye week's coming at the right time.
Oh, it really is. And you talked about dodging bullets, man. Ravens really like they do obviously have some guys like Arthur Millette on injury reserve. Deontay Hardy, I think he probably done for the year too. And there've been some other guys missing, but Ravens like they got some pretty good health right now, man. Most of their key guys that they lost, they got pretty much all of them back. Like remember Andrew Voorhees, he got hurt, but he's healthy, but he just been on the bench with Kyle Hamilton. Man, goodness, how many scares have we had with Kyle Hamilton this year? I don't even know, but he scares us every time because it's Kyle Hamilton. Like he's that guy. And in my opinion, he's the best player on the Ravens defense. And so whenever he goes down, it's like, oh my goodness, what is happening? But he keeps coming back. And then like you mentioned with Lamar, but yeah, with Travis Jones, he makes such a big difference because he makes everybody's job around him. I mean, you can say this for a lot of players, but certainly Travis Jones, he makes everybody's job on every level of the defense a lot easier than it is. He helps Matabike get loose. This is why I was so excited. Like last week when they said, "Oh, Michael Pierce, he's been designated to return to practices," and I said, "Oh, he's back." Oh, thank goodness. But then they said he wasn't playing in the game. I said, "Oh man." So okay, because Travis Jones, he's been dealing with that ankle injury for like I think over a month. And this bye week, yeah, like you mentioned, the timing of it, it's really, really good because guys can rest up, guys can get healthier. Rashad Bateman, who knows what he's dealing with? I guess we'll see when they come back next week. But this a big chance for the Baltimore Ravens to get better physically. But in my opinion, what's even more important than that is for them to get right mentally, because this team right now mentally they all over the place. Of course, got everything happening with Deontay Johnson. You got Rashad Bateman doing his thing. But Zay Flowers, I ain't really think that was a big deal. I know a lot of people don't like that. They don't like when the wide receivers, I hate when they complain over the ball. They're such a diva. For me, it's like they want to catch passes. They want to make impact plays. Their job is to catch the football from the quarterback. So if that ain't happening, yeah, okay. If they get frustrated, okay, no problem with that. But anyway, the Ravens, their mentals they're all over right now. So I think this bye week will serve as a nice break for them. Take a step away from football for a while, as much as you possibly can. Obviously, it's probably going to still be on your mind. It's your job. But take that step back, take that week off, and then when you come back next week, be recharged, rejuvenated, refreshed, and just be ready to go.
I hope so. And yeah, with Lamar too, he gets banged up. I think it's been impressive the number of times he's avoided sacks. Like he's bottom third in the league, Sutton sacks taken. He's not running as much. And I do wonder if some of that's a function of him trying to preserve himself and being a little beat up with the back and the knee or whatever minor, easy for us to say, Sut, minor injuries, bumps and bruises that Lamar's dealing with. But, think about Sut, the rookies too, Roger Rosengarten, the mental break that, you're talking about the combine, rookie mini camp, like those guys, their rookie year don't stop. Nate Wiggins getting more involved. I could go on and on with guys that this break is going to be good for. I wanted to ask you specifically about Lamar though, Sutton and Graven. Sut, I feel like, especially what he said about his mom cussing him out about, not running as much. This is a long season, brother. This is a 17 game plus. You can't be playing Superman all the time. Lamar hasn't had to. Could we see him go into Superman mode more frequently here as we start to enter the playoffs and have these must-win games, especially against Pittsburgh, say, not necessarily against this Giants, but to see Lamar really take things literally into his own hands. And if you don't see anything going on downfield where he's going to take off, take the free money, 7 yards, maybe instead of going out of bounds for a 15-yard game, Sut, he tries to cut it back and house this thing. Do you think we'll see that kind of like Lamar trying to use his legs more?
Well, yeah, I certainly do. And the main reason being because he literally said it at the press conference after the game. He said he's going to do his S word. I want to keep it clean here. You know, he was going to do his stuff, right? He's going to run. And I think that, you know, against the Giants, they're going to get carved up by the run. And if, you know, the guys in Vegas who gamble and whatnot, all of them are going to be betting the house on Lamar Jackson's over on the rushing yards. I can promise you that. But what I will say, though, is that against the Steelers, that'll be the real test on whether or not he's really going to be a capable runner, and if that's going to be the kind of avenue to success for this Ravens team. And the reason I say that is because the Steelers literally play Lamar Jackson the best against, you know, versus any other team. Nobody else plays Lamar Jackson as well as the Pittsburgh Steelers do. A lot of that has to do with Mike Tomlin and his coaching and getting his defense fired up. I get that, but also the defensive line plays a part. They do a really, really good job at keeping Lamar Jackson contained, not giving him clear rushing lanes for him to jump out of the window and break your back for 25 yards rushing. You know, it's really difficult for Lamar Jackson to be Lamar Jackson against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So while I do think that he is going to start running, I also think that it's going to be very, very tough sledding. Dare I say we might drop that second game to Pittsburgh because it's going to go back to what we've been seeing in the past couple of weeks where he might seem a little bit indecisive. It's not necessarily that. It's just that he has nowhere to go. He has nowhere to go, you know, and sometimes his receivers are glued to their DBs and he has to be Superman in ways. And sometimes the defense falls apart. So all we can really hope is that the defense kind of peaks at the right time and really starts to carry this offense where the offense starts to, you know, wane a little bit. And I think that's where kind of Derrick Henry, that's why we got Derrick Henry, especially for these December months. I think we have to kind of wear on teams a little bit more with him, because the whole purpose of bringing him in was to kind of alleviate some of the rushing duties of Lamar Jackson, especially so we could preserve him for the playoffs. So I'll go ahead and I'll leave it at that. But I'll just say this to end it. Derrick Henry needs to be a little bit more involved, but in different ways, because I don't want him being a crash dummy and getting tackled behind the offensive line of scrimmage, because, you know, that's just not conducive to victory at all.
So, Engraven, before you go, I'm talking more about scrambling Lamar, by the way. I'm not talking about read option him to death on first down and have him run to the sideline. I'm talking about taking off when nothing's going on downfield and just taking the free money instead of taking some bigger shots, some unnecessary, and just extending his runs a little bit more, you know, going for the gold a little bit more instead of playing it safer. Do you see that from Lamar, and build off anything Sutton said?
Oh yeah, I would certainly hope so. But the only pushback I would give to what Sutton was saying is that yeah, it does seem like Lamar, even though he has, I think, like 678 rushing yards right now, so he's certainly been running. But there's been some moments in a lot of different games where it's been like, oh man, Lamar had this lane and he ain't take it. But we've been saying that since last year too. Last year, that's when he put on a lot of weight, and it seemed like he was really trying to do a lot of self-preservation. So a lot of us were thinking, all right, come playoff time, that's what Lamar is waiting on. He's waiting on saving for the playoffs. That's when he's really going to take off. So they played the Texans in that first playoff game, and in the first half it was a little shaky. I think the score was 10-10, but then after that he went crazy, and then he ended up having 2 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing touchdowns. So he did it. He did it both ways, through the air, on the ground, got it done. So in the Chiefs game, we were thinking, oh yeah, Lamar just did that, and the Chiefs got a real bad run. Oh yeah, it's gonna be straight. He gonna take off on him if he needs to, but he didn't. He did, like on that first drive a little bit, but after that, he didn't. So I just
why is he bringing up old stuff? So why is he always bringing up like just that's what?
Because it's those patterns.
It's relevant though. It's relevant though, because like you said, the game before that, we're like, all right, Lamar had a big 4th down conversion too, in addition to those rushing touchdowns versus the Texans. Like, his legs were all over that game in the second half. I just want to mess with you, Engraven. Sorry, go ahead, man.
But no, when you know, like, and I said this a lot this week, especially after Lamar said his mom done cussed him out. Like, you can hear a lot of different stuff from a lot of different people, and it can be accurate information, it can be correct information, it can all be right. But when you hear it from your mom, especially if you got a good relationship with her, you got a healthy relationship with her, and you hear from your mom, then it can hit a lot different than when you hear from other people. And obviously we know that Lamar Jackson's mom has been heavily involved in literally everything that he's done for his entire life. She's been all around him. She's the one that helped train him in football. She's been heavily involved with him from jump. So he obviously values her and honors her and respects her and loves her. That's his mom. So with her telling him, like, I think it's gonna get ugly for the Giants. But like Sutton said, like the Steelers, that's gonna be a real test. Because not to try to be on no high horse or nothing like that, but I expect the Ravens to handle the Giants. Like I expect them to dominate that game. I expect them to do their thing, break records, whatever. I expect them to do their thing. But it's that Steelers game. That's gonna be the one that really shows us, like, all right, Ravens, what's up? Because while there's so much that gets talked about with, oh yeah, the Steelers are whatever their record is against Lamar Jackson. I think what are they 4-1 or 5-1? One of them two. When Lamar Jackson plays, and a lot of people can think, oh man, well Mike Tomlin. And I said it before myself too. Like Mike Tomlin, he's been going against John Harbaugh since 2008. So yeah, he knows John Harbaugh like crazy. But at the same time, hold on. But John Harbaugh also been going against Mike Tomlin since 2008, so he should know him like crazy too. So there ain't no excuses. So that Steelers game, yeah, that's gonna let us know a lot of who these Baltimore Ravens really are. Or not.
You know, so Q picks coming in, huge pessimist right now, but I think we finally beat the Steelers in 3 weeks. We even had our guest tonight, Alec Polianis from One Winning Pod, saying that's pretty much. I mean, he didn't say it exactly like this, but that's pretty much all he's asking for. That's all he wants, Sut. He just wants that Steelers game for the confidence, for the, you know, to get over the hump, to get the monkey off our back, however you want to put it, just to finally, you know, get that to go. And I got to admit, Sud, I'm kind of with him. Like, it's not to say Lamar has played poorly against the Steelers. We had the drop pass game. I ain't trying to get it. I just want to see a vintage Lamar. I want to see a huge game from Lamar against the Steelers and the entire offense. You know, put up 30-some on these boys and beat them by
Jason,
14.
That's the problem. He has to be perfect for us to beat the best teams, and that's just not conducive to winning a Super Bowl. It's just not. It's a team sport. You know, I know we say we want vintage Lamar. I want him too. I want him really, really bad to go out there and throw a Jackson 5. We win, but like if that's the only way that we can win, that's an issue. That's an issue for me.
I'm saying the Steelers ain't one of those teams. We should be able to punk them by 2 touchdowns. See, that's where our difference is. I'm not saying go out and beat the Bills or the Eagles by, but I think it's time for us to look. The Steelers, I don't know. Maybe I just don't have as high of opinion of them as you, but I think that's definitely a team that Lamar could put up 300 plus. Derrick Henry goes for 100 plus. The Ravens score 33 points, even on that good defense, because they can't get anything going on offense on us. No?
Well, defense, culture, and running the football, that works in December and January, and good coaching as well. So I think that we can't really sleep on the Steelers too much, because what are they, 9-3 at this very moment? 9-3, I want to say.
Yep.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So I don't know. I think we should definitely put a little bit more respect on the Steelers. I think they're one of those teams.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I love it, man. That's why I love having different people on, man, because I've talked to Ashley and Alec and Yuri all the time. So I know what they're thinking all the time. So you know how that goes. Engraven, I've had you on for a long, long time. We're getting ready to wrap up here. So I want to get I usually call it final thoughts time. But what haven't we talked about, man? What's been on your mind? What is on your mind? What have you been talking about on the channel, for instance? Give me your goodbye to the Huddle It Up Films channel here for this season, and what do you want to see for this team? I asked the other people, what would they say to John Harbaugh? What would they say to the team if they were up there speaking to him? So lay it all out for me, Engraven. Take your time, man, and give me what you got.
Oh no! Don't tell me to take my time. I can't do it anyway because my battery on my laptop it will end up dying. I'll be running my mouth too much. But just win, straight up win. Play winning football. Do what you got to do. We'll tell them throw the numbers out the window. The only numbers that we need to care about is points and then wins. And then if you get enough points, that'll translate to enough wins. And just reset. Just reset. Not that the season starts over right now. I know a lot of coaches say that, all right, after the bye week, the season really starts now. No, the season already started. But now, Ravens are in firm control of what happens moving forward. So they just got to go out there and make it happen, man. Ravens, they already did a little bit of roster construction and whatnot. If you got to do some more, look for ways to just be the best possible team that you can be. Throw egos out the window. I know Ashley earlier, she mentioned throw politics out the window. Just do what you got to do to get the job done. Make sure that the best players are playing. Do what you got to do to have the best roster out there on the field, the best 11 at all times out there on the field, and just get it done, man. Ravens literally have less than 0 excuses to make it happen. They had less than 0 excuses last year too, but still this year they have less than 0 excuses. So you just got to finish it out and make it happen, man.
Sut, man, same sentiment to you. What do you got? Like, if you're in EDC's office, Harbaugh's office, or in front of the team, what's your overall feel? Like, hey, Sut, we need you to go in there, give a message. You act like you're the most important person in the world, that all the players, coaches, GMs idolize, and you get to go in there and message. What message would you give to this team?
I mean, honestly, after last week against the Eagles, defend this house for sure. That's one thing for me. But like Engraven said, just reset, man. And I mentioned this when I first came on the show. The leaders on this team have to step up and kind of grab the bull by the horns with the rest of the guys and say, hey, look, like our backs are up against the wall right now. We keep messing around, we might not make the playoffs. That's where we're at right now. Like, we need to wake up, and I think that in years past, like you think about the last couple of Super Bowls that we won, Ray Lewis in 2012 and in 2000 as well, he was the one, that emotional leader. Lamar Jackson, he is the quarterback on this team, but he's not as much of an emotional leader, right? Roquan Smith, we thought it was going to be him. He's kind of taken a step back. Now we see Nnamdi Madubuike leading huddles before pre-games and whatnot. So we just seem to be a little bit all over the place emotionally, I would say. There's no one true leader, but the best players on this team, right? Lamar Jackson, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, Mark Andrews, Justin Tucker, even, got to step up. Have a conversation with the guys. Everybody's kind of, got to air their dirty laundry with each other if it needs to happen, whatever it takes to get on the same page mentally. That's what it's going to take for us to actually make a championship run in this season here, because we're in our window. I mean, we have this year and we have next season. After that, Lamar Jackson's cap balloons to 25% of the cap space. After that, I mean, it's going to take a lot more kind of like slicing and dicing of the roster and kind of nipping and tucking from EDC in order to make things work. So we have to make things work right now. And I think that mentally, everybody just needs to be on the same page. So have a conversation, air the dirty laundry, and get on the same sheet of music. That's what I'm going to say.
I love it. Before I go, I just have to say thank you to all my guests tonight, from Ken to Alec to Ashley, Yolanda, Engraven, Sut. Love y'all, man. Love y'all so much. And I'm sure I'll be on all your channels soon. And hopefully I can get you all to come back for draft season. As you know, that's something really close to my heart. You don't have to be a draft expert to talk draft with me. I want to know what style of players, how we're going to get this team better. I want to give my message to the team. And that would be more of we all we got, we all we need. And that's what I want to see from this team. At this point, there's very little. There's changes that can be made. Don't get me wrong, but for the players in that locker room, the guys that if I was on the team, to my teammates, it's like, hey, we're okay, man. Let us keep that intensity that we had week 1 going into Kansas City. That same mindset that we had. That hey, this is our year. We're going to show up tonight and prove it. That's the mindset we need. I've seen too much drama with this team. And we're not even in the locker room, but it's just bled out of the locker room, which is very un-Ravens like, from Eddie Jackson to Marcus Williams, this Deontay Johnson stuff going on. Roquan, very, very quiet, suspiciously quiet. There's a different energy with this team that I do not like. And I just need everybody to get back on the same page to say, hey, we are one of the best most talented team in the NFL, bar none. We're all we got. We're all we need. We can fix this. No more excuses. Remember, Ray Lewis once said, it's not time to come back to the huddle and say my fault. Like, enough of that. Let's get it back. My bad ain't good enough no more. We're all we got. We all we need. And that's what I'd be preaching to each and every one of my teammates, players, and coaches. And, I would like to see changes made along the offensive line. I would like to see us get more settled at linebacker. I would like to see Trey White play more. I would like to see Brandon Stevens continue to be that dime linebacker in passing situations. He actually looks really good as the dime linebacker, that old Chuck Clark role when we go to dime defense, 6 DBs. So there are changes I'd like to make. But when Lamar Jackson is your quarterback like he is ours, I'm confident every Sunday, guys. So that's my final message. Let's get it together. Let's enjoy the rest of the season. And we just got our butts whooped by Philadelphia. Hopefully that is a wake-up call to everybody to get in some extra lifts and get healthy. So, Engraven, thank you so much. Sut, thank you so much. What I love about you, Sut, is you're not afraid to disagree with me. Not that Engraven doesn't. He does too. But I love me and you see things different, man. I'll ask you if I'm crazy. You'll be like, yeah, bro, you're out of your mind. So I love that. But hey, with that, I want to say thank you to our football family. Love our football family. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. Share it with people. If you're fans of Engraven, if you're a fan of Purple Rain Podcast, please share the video. Make sure you're following these guys and all that good stuff. Not good with promoting the channel and all that. So I could use all the help that I can get. But with that, I want to say thank you to everybody and say good night to the people, guys.
Good night. See y'all.
Good night, folks. Ravens flock. Be cool, be calm, be collected. It's all good.
And hey, what do you always say at the end of your show, Sut?
Oh yeah, stay positive, test negative, and never ever ever forget to call God.
Let's keep it. Love you guys.